Well, first, I want to acknowledge that after a long history of various individuals in the body denying the existence of climate change, I do want to say that it's very encouraging to see that there is some acknowledgement of the climate crisis here in the report. So I'm proposing an amendment that would require the collection of public health data and other impacts of new drilling on federal lands.
In House hearing, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried to slip a loaded amendment into the legislation under review, but Congressman Matt Rosendale wasn't having it. He called out what he saw as pure political theater, exposing the performance behind her so-called activism. His pushback cut through the noise, sparking a fiery clash that left lawmakers and viewers debating one thing. Was this about progress or just scoring points for the cameras?
My colleagues say that opening more of our federal lands to fossil fuel development is what their constituents want and need. I'm not here to dispute that point in this moment. But I will say that surely if that is the case, then there should be no objection to gathering better data on the health impact of these policies on the health and safety of everyday Americans. So I truly believe this is a common sense amendment that would help protect and inform the American people, especially the most vulnerable among us. And I urge my colleagues to support the amendment, and I yield.
Actually allowed forest management strategies that could stop millions of acres from burning every year, saving lives, property, and our air and water quality. That's what this hearing was supposed to be about. Not pledges to political parties, but practical, real-world solutions. The goal was responsibility, prevention, and long-term sustainability. Common sense policies to protect people and the environment, not political talking points.
How can you ignore that emissions have actually gone up during this administration? How can you ignore the millions of people around the earth that have had clean water, indoor plumbing, lights, electricity provided to them, making their lives better, literally extending their lifespan, lifting them out of poverty by having access to electricity that's been provided by coal, oil, gas, or other fossil fuels? It simply can't be ignored. Their lives are better, their lives are longer as a direct result of that. So to sit there and say that we should be trying to eliminate these fuels is absolutely absurd, ridiculous.
Let's be clear, nobody in that room denied climate change. The divide came down to how government chooses to respond. The February 2023 Natural Resources Committee meeting was meant to review oversight plans, but it quickly turned into a sharp critique of the Biden administration's environmental approach. Lawmakers wrestled with the same question echoing across the country. How do we act fast enough to fight climate change without crushing jobs and communities in the process?
The desire by this administration to shut down our domestic energy production is causing prices to escalate, forcing Montanans to make difficult decisions about heating their homes or simply putting food on their table.
When AOC dropped her amendment, a document stuffed with every climate buzzword imaginable. It claimed fossil fuel extraction was burdening communities of color, low-income families, and indigenous groups, but Rosendale refused to let it slide. He fired back hard, calling out what he saw as politicized framing instead of practical policy. The clash captured the deeper divide in Congress between those chasing headlines and those demanding real solutions.
Unfortunately, my colleagues across the aisle have been extremely selective about when they would like to use science-based information. How about if we start using science-based information about managing the population of grizzly bears in the state of Montana, which populations are at 300% and 400% of the target populations, so that we can delist these.
Rosendale's frustration didn't come from nowhere. Critics say Biden's energy policy could be studied as a case of what not to do. On day one, he unleashed a wave of executive orders freezing new oil and gas drilling. The result? Higher energy costs that hit ordinary Americans the hardest. Families saw utility bills skyrocket, and debates over energy independence erupted nationwide. The administration's strategy, once billed as forward-thinking, started to look dangerously out of touch with economic reality.
And how about if we allow forest management practices that would prevent millions of acres from burning each year, absolutely ruining air, land, and water quality across the state across the nation and start using some best management practices on how to take care of those forests, which would not only help keep our air, land, and water clean, but it would also help the economy, provide jobs, and be better for everyone who's connected with it. For all of those reasons, I will be opposing this amendment. Thank you very much.
Then came the promises of a clean energy revolution and the disappointment that followed. In 2022, Biden launched a $5 billion EV infrastructure plan, vowing to build 500,000 charging stations by 2030. It sounded bold. But by mid-2025, only 56 had actually been completed. That's not transformation, that's paralysis. The gap between vision and execution became a symbol of how the administration's biggest ideas keep collapsing under their own weight.
When you say impact, you mean both sides, positives and negatives.
Yes, I'm not sure if there's confusion about the substance of the amendment. The amendment is specifically about an assessment on the health and safety impact. If there are practices that are revealed to have positive health impacts on the communities, on impacted and frontline communities, I do not dispute the inclusion of any positive health impacts. I believe that we should have information on things that may improve people's health, but of course, there is a large degree of concerning information about the potential health impacts, breathing impacts, cancer exposure, etc.
I think that the politicians shouting loudest about climate change would prioritize protecting forests, our most powerful natural defense. But in states like California, the opposite has happened. Study after study shows that responsible forest management drastically reduces wildfire risk, yet bureaucratic red tape keeps tying the hands of those trying to act. Year after year, wildfires rage harder, not because we can't prevent them, but because politics keeps us from doing it.